Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? We're stopping on the color line.
Oh, no way, Jose.
This just in, go to hell!
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Okay. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. My mother sends me money. All right. Hello, friends and listeners. You've got Watch Skip Plus. We're laughing because I was doing my little vocal exercises right before I started the intro. I'm sure Mike was like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway,
I'm used to them. They're funny.
We are Watch Skip Plus. We're a movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. That twist is that after we review a new streaming or theatrical film, today it's streaming, folks, so get excited. We will give you a bonus review, a bonus lifestyle review, and that can be on anything. If you are joining us for the first time, whether it's Spotify, our home, either you're watching or listening, or even YouTube, please click all of the things that you can, subscribe, like, leave a review. That's how we trick algorithms out there to spread the word about our humble podcast. I am Jose, also known as Cupcake, and I am joined by my co-host, Mike, the WillDaBeast. How are you doing this week?
You know, I'm kind of swimming in some grief. I had a death that I had to deal with, and I ended up seeing a lot of movies, kind of getting reclusive and just sitting around. So, you know, I'm doing okay, but yeah, death sucks. You never know what, when, or how, or what you're going to grieve.
Death totally sucks. And I also have recently gone through a loss. My extended family, my best friend Tanya, and her sisters and her nephew Ryan, they are Scooter and I's extended family, and their older sister Deborah unfortunately passed away in March 2nd. I haven't been able to really talk about it or post about it, but we had the service on Saturday, and it was a celebration, actually. So it wasn't, I mean, there was a lot of crying. Let me just say that. I'll get that out of the way. There was a lot of crying, but we sort of celebrated her rather than just being like, oh, it's all dark and here's the prayer and this and that. So anyway, it was wonderful. So yeah, again, not trying to like fish for any information, but just putting that out there.
No, I'm an open book. Mine was my aunt, my mother's sister. So yeah, she passed away. She was only 56, so she wasn't that much older than me. But yeah, due to some cancer and just health.
Yeah, Deborah was
cancer.
Deborah was quite young also, and she did have some health issues. Okay, so moving on to our movie review. We went through a couple candidates, did we not? We had
lots. Yeah, we talked about like
lots.
3 options.
We talked about 3 options. We ruled 2 of them out primarily because they doubled up, right? Like Jack Quaid, his film Novocaine came out, which just kind of looked like Nepo Baby Crank. Sorry, did I say Nepo Baby Crack? Nepo Baby Crank, right? And then my favorite director of all time, Steven Soderbergh, had released a film called Black Bag, but we had also already done a Soderbergh. Interestingly enough, David Koepp also wrote Black Bag. David Koepp and Steven Soderbergh worked on Presence, which we had already reviewed. So what did we actually settle on? What are we? I already teased it. It's a streaming movie, but what are we reviewing?
The Russo Brothers, The Electric State. Netflix original.
A Netflix original to the tune of $320 million, folks. You know, Netflix, y'all could have bailed out the U.S. government but you chose to pay the Russos. All right, so let's start. I'm going to start, and we're going to deep dive below the line. We talked about the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe. I think they're only like a year apart. There was a part of me that thought that maybe they were twins. I know that they're both very good looking. One of them maybe is rocking a hairpiece. I don't know what's happening. I look at his hair sometimes. I look at his hair sometimes, and I'm like, okay. So the Russos. How do you know the Russos, Mr. WillDaBeast?
I think like most people through the Marvel universe, through their Avenger movies. And then I really did like the one he did with Ryan Gosling. I thought that was kind of cute and fun. Again, kind of a waste of money because I think that was a $200 million movie as well.
250 million.
What was it called again, Jose?
It was called The Gray Man.
The Gray Man, yeah. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a nice villain turn for Mr. Captain America as well.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, it should have been in theaters. Like, I don't understand this model, giving people 200 to 300 million bucks and not letting it play theatrically when these movies obviously are cinematic as hell. That's frustrating to me.
We talked about this before, and thank you for saying, cinematic as hell, because we're going to talk about this, but the Russos definitely, they have an eye. We will say that, but we talked about this before about how the industry model has just really changed, and the streamers are the ones, Apple TV in particular, they are starting to steamroll with some series. You talked about Shrinking. I know Tanya's a big fan of C, which is that one where like Jason Momoa is blind, but he's like killing everybody under the sun. The Russos actually directed a film for Apple TV as well called Cherry with sexy young Spider-Man
Holland
marrying Tom Holland. Yes. Marrying Zendaya. God, they're going to have beautiful babies. I hope that lasts. Okay. They're gonna be so pretty. We'll be blinded, folks. The Russos will be paying them to star. Anyway, but starting with the Russos, yes, you are talking about Captain America. They directed The Winter Soldier, which I happen to think is like a perfect superhero movie, and then Civil War, and then Feige was just like, here's some more money, and they did the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. Endgame, by the way, I think is the second highest grossing, like it might be even film ever. Whatever.
Second, I think.
Yeah. So interesting that for most of us, the Russos enter our minds because of those films. But before that, they had literally only directed 2 films. Wait for this, folks. Just wait for this. One produced by my favorite director in the world, Steven Soderbergh, who is a mentor of those, by the way. That blows my mind, I might add. So when we start getting to how I feel about the Russos, it blows my mind. But they directed Welcome to Collinwood, which itself was a remake of an Italian film, which I think was called something like The Madonna of Beat Street or something like that. And then after that, they directed in, I want to say it's 2007. Let me look at the dates. So Welcome to Collinwood was 2002. They directed in 2006, You, Me, and Dupree, which is a painful viewing experience. I don't know if anybody has seen this, but it stars Kate Hudson, Owen Wilson, and Matt Dillon. Yes, folks, that's the cast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so curiously enough, one of them, I believe, wanted to become a lawyer. They ended up chucking all of that. And I think one went to Case Western for film school. The other went to University of Notre Dame for film school. They maxed out their credit cards to make a film called Pieces. That was in 1997. But while we've talked about the fact that they've obviously ascended to this point now where companies are willing to throw them in excess of $100 million to make films, but they actually were behind television shows like Arrested Development. What About Brian? Community, very, very, very popular television show. Happy Endings, which was a comedy that didn't last very long. And then, of course, they helped to create Agent Carter, surprise, for the MCU. That was one of their television shows. That was on ABC.
ABC, yep.
Yeah, it was on ABC. They were also behind Deadly Class, which was fantastic. If you hadn't seen that, it only lasted 1 season. They are also behind something called From, which I haven't checked out yet, but I hear is a great horror series.
People love it.
Not series about whores, but yes, people love it. I think I'd love it more if it was about whores. And then, of course, they hit the news for making Prime's Citadel, which is a series that starred Priyanka Chopra, and he was in Eternals. He's spankingly good looking. What is his name?
Can't remember
forget.
his name.
Oh my goodness, I should know this name.
Yeah, flash a picture right now.
Richard Madden. Yes. Now that film, and the reason why it got headlines was because it is the most expensive television series in total costs.
Right.
So if you look at the breakdown of television series, you can see that some are expensive per episode. This was for total costs, something north of 350 million, folks. Now, I happened to catch that. Did you happen to see Citadel?
No, but I've heard really good things about it. But again, I haven't seen it.
Actually, I'm going to tell you, there's really bad things about it. It's not that it's trash, but it is so clearly a Bond Mission Impossible clone that it is just super predictable. It is beautiful to look at, but it's super predictable. Now, interestingly enough, they have created a universe there as well. There are 2 spin-off series, Citadel Diana from the UK, and then Citadel, I think it's called like Honeypot or something like that. No, it's not called Honeypot, folks. I'm so sorry. It's called Honey something, but it's from India, I believe. So they've already started these spin-off things. So, okay. So those are our directors. Interesting setup. Did I mention, you mentioned The Gray Man, which they did for streaming. And then this is for streaming also for Netflix. Our cinematographer is Stephen Winden. You all should know him because he works alongside Justin Lin and has been the cinematographer for a majority of the Fast series films. So we're looking at the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. That was their first collaboration. Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7, The Fate of the Furious, F9, and F10. So actually, you know what? He's the architect, basically, of the way that these Fast films look. He has also shot films like Deep Blue Sea, The Postman for Kevin Costner, G.I. Joe Retaliation for John Chu, who thankfully has now moved on to musicals rather than G.I. Joe. And as well, he shot The Gray Man for the Russo Brothers. He is currently in post-production on Mortal Kombat 2 for Simon Quode. That should be exciting. Our writers are Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. He's got the McFeelys, folks. They are a writing duo. They are something of franchise wonderkinds as well. They have written the Chronicles of Narnia film franchise, and then they worked with the Russos on the Captain America franchise, as well as the Avengers 2 films. They also helped to create Agent Carter and Thor: The Dark World. So they know something about franchise. They also were executive producers and wrote The Gray Man, and then Michael Bay's Pain and Gain as well. Yep. I should mention that this film is based on a Swedish graphic novel by Simon Stålenhag. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's a Swedish artist, musician, and designer specializing in, no surprise, retro futuristic digital art. And our music is by Alan Silvestri. If you don't know who Alan Silvestri is, this is one of our catchphrases: stop listening to our podcast. He has scored a ton of things that everybody would know, things like Back to the Future, Contact, Castaway. And no, he doesn't just work for Robert Zemeckis, but he has also scored things like Ready Player One, The Abyss, Predator, The Mummy Returns, and he has scored many MCU films, The Avengers, Captain America, The First Avenger, etc., etc. Love that guy, Alan Silvestri. He's pretty amazing. So I know you wanted to talk about something with regards to the graphic novel before we got started and jumped into cast.
Well, what I think is interesting to know is that the writer, Christopher Marcus, is actually the one who brought the film concept to the Russos. He just found the Kickstarter. The graphic novel was Kickstarted. And if you noticed, and if you remember this, the graphic novel came out in 2018. They actually bought the rights in 2017 because they stumbled upon the Kickstarter campaign, basically said, oh, we like this. They, according to an interview I saw that's on a Netflix like podcast right now, I watched a little bit of it.
There's a Netflix podcast, or are you talking about Netflix to dumb? They're sort of
Netflix did a like.
Sorry,
they do little like whenever they release a movie like this, they'll release like a little companion, kind of almost behind the scenes, where it's basically interviews and editing things together. So I wanted to dive into a little bit more about where they got the ideas, the visuals of the film. And basically they stumbled upon this and they loved how cinematic it was. It felt like George Lucas. It felt like Amblin Entertainment to them, but they knew nothing more about it than what it looked like, the images. So they jumped onto it, purchased it, and then what they kind of had to come up with their own plot to start writing. There was very little plot at the time that they purchased it. They even talk about how even they feel like the book itself is less plot and more visual, and that's how they as filmmakers work. The Russos with the markers is that they work at a very visual level.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because it's not like a graphic novel like you would think. It's really more artwork with some paragraphs that sort of give you a framework of the story itself. But it's interesting that it has Kickstarter, origins, but, this is nothing new. WME also, trades speak, William Morris Endeavor. So William Morris merged with Endeavor. Endeavor also has like publishing houses that they are part of. And so they get some of these novels before they get published and they snap up the rights. So that's kind of what we've been seeing for the last decade or so. Just in terms of how Hollywood works. But let's go over to you with the cast. This is, there are so many people in here that to prevent a 2-hour discussion just based on the cast alone, I think we're just going to try to fly through some of them. So who do you have for cast for this?
So I'm just going to list off the main top 10 cast members because there's so many. And then I thought each of us would just kind of grab a name or two and talk about what they thought about this performance in other films. A lot of these we've talked about before, but we have Millie Bobby Brown, who is our lead. She plays Michelle. We have Chris Pratt, who plays Keat. We have Ke Huy Quan, who plays Dr. Amherst. We've got Jason Alexander in a role. Woody Harrelson plays Mr. Peanut. Anthony Mackie, Brian Cox, Jenny Slate. They all have basically voice roles. Giancarlo Esposito is how he actually pronounces his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've met the man, so I do know it's Esposito. And Stanley Tucci. Again, those round up our cast. For me, I really did love seeing Jason Alexander again on screen. Yeah, he has a small role, basically playing Millie Bobby Brown's abusive kind of foster parent. But
I didn't even recognize him with the robot. I didn't even recognize him at first with the robot thing, and then he pulls the helmet off, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Jason Alexander.
Well, as much as everyone thinks he's just Seinfeld, like he's an actually really well-trained actor. Yes. But I mean, most of us think about Seinfeld or The Burning. So
yes,
it's fun to see Jason Alexander. Who did you like seeing in the cast?
Well, I mean, obviously, like, and I this is terrible. I call her Millie Bobby. What did I call her?
Bobby Brown.
I called her Millie Riley Brown is what I call her.
Okay.
Miley Cyrus. I call her Miley.
She does look like Miley Cyrus.
Miley Ray Cyrus. Yeah, exactly. Whatever. But I know her from Stranger Things, obviously the wildly popular Stranger Things. Honestly, she kind of grated on me in Godzilla King of Monsters.
Yeah, that's a bad role.
Thankfully, she was not as grating in Godzilla versus Kong.
Yep.
I know she has like a skincare line. I know she married into the Bon Jovi family. I know a lot of people recently, there was a flack where she had come out and obviously we've seen, this happens with child actors all the time. We've seen her grow up, right? And she comes out and she's like she's got boobs now and she's got hair and makeup. And she took these men to task who had sort of like critiqued her look. And she sort of was like, shame on you for not allowing me to grow up and this and that and blah blah blah. And I think even that bald comedian guy who I think is the brother of Rebel Wilson's brother, because they've appeared in films together, but he has like a bald head and glasses or whatever, very pale.
Okay.
I think you know who I'm talking about, Matt something or other, but I always think they're like brother and sister, but I don't think that they are. But I will get to her performance here. Chris Pratt, of course, love him. Parks and Recs. I think he's a funny dude. Do I kind of hate him for divorcing Anna Faris? I have no idea what happened between the two of them, but the fact that they divorced, I was like, that makes me so sad because I love them as a couple. But now he's Pratzenegger, if that's a word.
Schwarzenegger's
he married
daughter.
Schwarzenegger's daughter, Pratzenegger. But Esposito, love him. Esposito, Breaking Bad. He's somewhat of a WS Plus regular because Captain America. He's been on other things that we've talked about. He's a big franchise guy who kind of creeps into franchise. It's sort of weird. Stanley Tucci, another WS Plus person who's repeatedly been on here. I love Stanley Tucci. I feel like anything he's in elevates. These voice actors, I want to ask your opinion about the voice actors because I couldn't place who they are. I swore that HRM, I swore that was Kevin Hart because he plays very Kevin Hart-like. But anyway, what'd you think about the voice actors? Any actors that stood out to you either?
For me, I really felt like Jenny Slate playing the post woman really added a humanity to that character, to that robot. And I love her. She's also comes from Parks and Rec. She's a really great character, like basically a meme nowadays. If you ever look up her character, and her brother, who also went on to play the Sonic voice, the voice of the Sonic 3 and 2 and 1. So Ben Schwartz, I think, is his name. But they were brother sister role, and they were hilarious. And now, if you just
I love Ben Schwartz. Ben Schwartz, so great, so sexy, and Jenny Slate
is also hilarious. She's gorgeous. She's funny. Her stand-up is great. She again comes back from that Sundance world. That's where I've seen her. But I really thought that her voice added a lot to that character. But Anthony Mackie, I believe, is who you were thinking was Kevin Hart, right?
Yeah. He totally played that character like Kevin Hart, and he's even tiny and diminutive as well.
He played it like Kevin Hart playing the bad role in Borderlands. He did that same voice.
Yes. Definitely. But more so, oddly enough, in Borderlands, Kevin Hart was not the regular Kevin Hart.
He was more macho.
Yeah, he was more macho. He played the straight action guy. If you can believe that, folks. That's why nobody saw Borderlands, because nobody wants to see Kevin Hart like that, I guess. I don't know. I could not place Mr. Peanut to save my life. So I was very surprised that it was Woody Harrelson.
You couldn't tell it was Woody Harrelson?
No.
My wife at first thought it was Mr. Okay,
Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, I thought maybe it was him or somebody. Who was Brian Cox? I'm surprised.
Oh, I can't remember the name. I didn't write it down, but just one of the small robot characters. Again, they all just had smaller roles.
Oh, he was the baseball one, Pop Fly.
The baseball one, the Pop.
Loved Pop Fly. Yeah. Okay.
Alan Tudyk does Cosmo, does the little beep boop 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 sounds of Cosmo because that's what he does. It's just weird.
Why even credit Alan Tudyk for making? Alan Tudyk is
that's all he does.
Alan Tudyk is the new Frank Welker, right? Frank Welker always used to he'd voice these characters who were like or whatever. Now he's oh Alan, we need you more acting, no more just sounds, right?
He does have that great Resident Alien show. If you don't watch that, he's really
my god, I love Resident Alien. It's so I've been trying to get Troy over at Not a Bomb to watch that.
That'd be up his alley.
Start watching it. You would love it. I've told him a ton of times he would love Resident Alien.
Yeah, that's totally something he would like too. Yeah, he needs to see that.
Okay. We're gonna head into spoiler-free reviews here. I'm dying to hear what you think, Mike. Right now, I'm gonna read the log line because this is one of those. I'm not even gonna say it's dystopian, but it's an alternate future USA. and it might take us 10 minutes to explain everything. That might not even be worth it, folks. So I'm going to read the log line from IMDb. Here we go. An orphaned teen hits the road with a mysterious robot to find her long-lost brother, teaming up with a smuggler and his wisecracking sidekick. Okay, so that's the summary. I'm starting with you. What do you think about this? Russo Brothers, The Electric State.
Man, this is like Madam Web for me, bro. I ate this shit right up. I loved it.
Oh, you ate it? Oh my God.
I ate it up. This is like
Okay.
this is like Madam Web for you, brother. This is bad movie making, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. Of course, the screenplay's trash. Like, when you just go straight out, the screenplay itself is not very well put together, but visually, this movie is amazing. I loved, and I've heard people complain. I just had a blast. I watched it with my whole family. We all pretty much thought the same thing. We all enjoyed ourselves. We thought it was 2 hours and 10 minutes of just big, dumb fun, as good as the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, probably, really much in that lane, in that world. It's perfect to introduce kids to. I mean, again, I didn't think it was offensive. Maybe if I didn't see it with my kids and my family, I thought to myself, maybe I wouldn't have the same experience. I wouldn't like it as much as I like it. But
I was just about to ask you that.
I love Jurassic Park. I love big movies, and I remember that feeling of what it was like to see these big, giant, like, dinosaurs come to life, and seeing my son's mouth agape, the scene with the big robots and the way they fought. I liked it more than I like most of the Transformers movies, stuff that isn't really well written. Basically, the plot is these Disney robots start to fight. They battle with America, and then we have Terminator battle fight. Anyway, the humans win. They put them off into this other island that's now their prison island. None of that really matters. Let's just have fun with quippy dialogue, silly, stupid explosions, fun chemistry between two leads who aren't really that great as actors, but it was just a lot of fun to see what they were going to get put through from one epic visual scene to the next. Again, it's derivative of a lot of stuff we have seen, but if I didn't already have Netflix, or if it wasn't easy enough to get a free code, sure, maybe I would be like, everyone stay home. But this is Netflix. This is entertaining. It's big, dumb. Everyone's going to be talking about the biggest, dumbest movie on Netflix. It is a $320 million spectacle. Don't go into this expecting anything well written, but especially if you have children, it is fun. It has that Amblin Entertainment feeling of like Explorers and films like that I saw in my childhood that also are dumb. I mean, again, this is not trying to be anything smart or entertaining or more than entertaining. It's not trying to be educational. It's just trying to be entertaining and show us visuals and cool bits of things we haven't seen before. This is the kind of adventurous sci-fi I like. I didn't get bored in this like I did with Mickey 17 last week. This, to me, is big, dumb fun. Turn on, watch it with your kids, or like everyone complained about, watch it while you're folding laundry. Sometimes movies are just meant to be entertaining, and this is big, stupid, dumb, fun entertainment. And it's cheap and easy to find right there on Netflix. So for me, it's a light watch. Again, if you're a big movie snob and you hate the Marvel movies, you don't like Guardians of the Galaxy, you don't like Suicide Squad, you're not into that big budget spectacle, this isn't for you. But if you are, and you like big popcorn cinema, and especially if you're bored at home on a weekend, pop some popcorn, sit with your family, get some friends together, get some beers, create some dumb jokes and some dumb beer games to go along with it. What about you?
Okay. Actually, I have some follow-up questions as usual.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. There has been, in our community, there has been a little bit of a leveling some criticism at the Russos, as in they don't really show us anything beyond this sort of big tentpole imagery, comic booky stuff, right? That there's nothing really in terms of a Russo Brothers aesthetic. Where does this fit into their resume?
I think it's middle of the pack. in their resume. I think it's better than the last film that they did, which I still liked. I still think it's Big Dumb Entertainment. I think they make, solid 6-7 star movies, a Kevin Seven type of film. But yeah, it would land right in the middle of that, probably right below the Marvel movies as far as what I've seen in theirs, and right above The Gray Man.
Okay.
I was taken in by the visual effects of these almost handmade looking robots that, except for Mr. Peanut, the look and vibe and voice of that was a mistake. There's a lot of flaws with this movie, but it is just that kind of big, dumb fun. It reminded me of the stuff we used to get in the 90s a lot more, when we go and watch freaking Dante's Peak and just see big shit blow up. Sometimes we just want to turn our brain off and see something cool for a change. And I thought that this was just dumb and fun and cool and creative enough to keep me and my entire family entertained, which is not rare. A lot of stuff that I think is great or awesome, I'm the only one that watches it, and all the rest of my family disappears. And I sit here and I'm wowed and I'm moved, but I don't have a crowd around me. So being surrounded by my family who wanted to sit and watch this movie, who enjoyed it the whole time, it doesn't happen very much, honestly.
So let me ask you this. You talked about the experience of this, watching it with your family, sort of ramping up the enjoyment factor of it. If you had a Regal pass, if you had paid a ticket to see this in the movie theaters?
I probably would have liked it more if I saw it in theaters, because I would have been blown away by the visuals. I probably would have paid for a big X, whatever it was, X screen or whatever.
4DX.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
because we've talked about this before. It's so strange to be a film critic. And yes, I'm including us as film critics. It's weird to be a film critic and to say this might be more enjoyable as a streamer. If I had seen it in the theaters, I might have hated it more or liked it more. I don't know. It's weird that we're in that space now, holding space for theaters.
I feel like
we're in that
people
space
would like it
now
more.
where all I can think of is I forget what that movie. I'm having a memory thing now, folks. This is what happens when you age. It's a memory thing.
It's true.
But
Me too.
what's his face? He's gay. He helped to direct Independence Day. Roland Emmerich. Roland Emmerich did that god awful fucking movie with Patrick Wilson about the big moon. What was that called? Moon disaster, moonstraction, moon whatever.
Oh,
Anyway, I went and saw it in the theaters, and I hated that film. I absolutely detested that film. But my review of it was, if this was a streaming film, I might have been lighter on it. My opinion might have actually improved if I had seen it at home. Yeah. So it's just weird that we're in that space. Okay. So for me, spoiler free on this.
Tear it apart.
Okay. So here's some good things about it. Okay. I didn't hate Millie Bobby Brown in this. I did not hate her. I did not hate her. And I didn't. So it's weird. I was totally expecting to just gut her performance, but I didn't, because she's actually really natural and really great. Yeah. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. She's actually really great. And so I'm wondering if there was maybe just a precociousness to some of her other roles, and stepping outside of seeing her in Stranger Things. When I watched her in this, what I immediately flashed on was Downey Jr. dies in Avengers. Sorry, folks. Sorry to spoil it, okay? And then we saw him in Oppenheimer, and I was like, oh my God, he's been wasting his time on these fucking superhero movies. And I felt the exact same thing. I'm like, why is she wasting her time on stuff like Godzilla and Stranger Things when she could be kind of easing into better dramatic roles? Not that this is any different from Stranger Things or Godzilla or whatever, but I really I want to see her in something, gritty and rough. I'm certainly not ready to watch her as a hooker or something, okay? But I'm just saying some kind of dramatic something or other, like go the Anne Hathaway route or something. I don't know, whatever. So that's a bonus. the other thing is, yeah, the effects in this, the production design, holy cow.
Holy shit.
Like my eyes, okay? What I liken this film to was a transformer humped the Willy Wonka chocolate factory and out came everything that you see in this film.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is kind of that way. It's so pretty and colorful, but yeah, that's pretty funny.
And some of the comedy works. I was trying to figure out a way to express the sort of comedy in this, and I don't want to say like snarky, but the only way that I could couch it is this. The comedy is very TikTok YouTube-y, and that's the only way I can explain it, because the jokes kind of come fast and furious, and they're sort of like these weird non sequiturs, but not in a really good Simpsons way, but just kind of in a TikTok YouTube kind of way. So a little
like
lesser
the jokes. It feels like the jokes in the Marvel movies. It felt like they came the same way. It was the same kind of, self-depreciating banter type of stuff, joking about each other's flaws, that kind of stuff. It felt very much like it was related to the Avengers. You could tell the same writing crew. Not the first one. The first Avengers movie looks like a cheap TV movie, and it's not that well written. I know people love Joss Whedon, but fuck him and his can't keep him canceled.
I love the first Avengers. I'm so sorry. I loved it.
Rewatch it. It looks bad. It just, in comparison to the others, it looks cheap.
It looks bad, but there is a pop culture energy efficient pulse to that film
because of his writing style. Unfortunately, he's a good writer.
It worked, and nostalgia wise, I mean, I don't think that the Marvel films have ever achieved that pop pulsing kind of feel ever after Avengers. I don't think it's ever done that.
Oh, I liked the last two more than I liked the first. Like, again, I like the Russos. I like the way that they're able to make things have a sheen to them, but look real and gritty. You know what I'm saying? When it's the first time we saw them, the Winter Soldiers, did they direct that too?
Mm-hmm. They did. Yeah, they did the Winter Soldier.
It's a way of taking something gritty and dirty and also making it look colorful and pop and feel real. Like all the robots felt and looked so real and so homemade, and like they've been through a hell of a battle. Like they do a good job of making these things. And to me, sometimes that's all you need. But yeah, the acting, man, Chris Pratt can we talk about Chris Pratt now?
First of all, like Corey in The Monkey, he is rocking the most hateful wig throughout this
mustache.
Film. Like, I could not. I was half expecting him to actually no, they played like a pop song, and I was like, this is perfect because he looks like he should be fronting Styx or like I don't know, some 80s band. But Pratt is just terrible in this. Unappealing, not funny. And I swear he's rocking some kind of like belly like enhancer to make him look like he has a gut.
He is.
But so you talked about the Russos. Here's my thing about the Russos. They are great visualists. I will give it to them. Yeah. Okay. They are fantastic. Citadel looks fantastic. All of the Marvel films look fantastic. But if you are just a visualist and you can't tie it back to a story that impacts your audience, this film for me was dead on arrival.
You didn't like the brother stuff?
35 minutes into this, I was like, wow, it's a narrative mess. And just like Mickey 17, they throw you all these little pieces and then they expect you to go with the flow. Hot fucking mess. The robot is super cute. Like, I adore the robot that was super cute in this, but the story about how the brother's essence is running the thing that defeated the robots, that's too much. You talk about the Mickey 17 gumbo. There's too much gumbo in here.
There is too much.
And listen, it's beautiful looking, yes, but it also feels like an acid trip nightmare. So again, Transformers fucking a Willy Wonka factory and then spitting out all of this stuff, and then it looks like an acid trip nightmare. I couldn't get on board with this. It's terrible. And in some ways, as great visualists as the Russos are, please stop giving them money to make things like this until they can dial it back. And listen, I love those guys, and they're very attractive. Like, come to my bedroom, folks. Anthony and Joe, come to my bedroom. By the way, Joe is in this. He acts in this film as well. At least I think so. It's the brother that doesn't have the hairpiece. But this was such a slog, and it's derivative, and just the plot doesn't work. Stanley Tucci doesn't work in this. Remember how I said, maybe I didn't say this earlier, about how like he's in something and he elevates the film. Even he cannot save this film. Like, this movie, it's terrible. I have no interest in reading the source material. I have no interest in seeing further adventures of Millie Bobby Billy and then Pratzenegger. No, none of this. Let this die, please.
I want two. I want prequels. I want
no,
three.
please.
Give me more.
Let this die. Let this die. And Mr. Peanut, how dare you do this to Mr. Peanut, pop culture
That was a
icon?
mistake.
Ooh,
Yeah,
fuck this movie. Fuck.
I didn't like the way they made
Netflix.
him look.
Fuck the Russos. It's a terrible film. Steer clear. And why in this alternate future where there is a mass battle where people are ostensibly choosing sides, and then they drop that, and suddenly it's like they're the only characters in the entire fucking universe, right? It's so weird until there's the big battle. But like, why in this dystopian future is everything look 80s like? Her costume and her extensions and the bangs and the makeup. I'm like, so apparently after the Robot War, we get bumped back to the 90s. It's awful.
Yeah.
You're right. It is set in the 90s.
Set in like 95, 96, I believe.
An alternate 1994.
Yeah. Oh, 94. Yeah.
No. Also, here's the other thing too. This is the curse of child actors. I think Millie is right. We don't want to see her in anything other than as a kid, because I could not believe she was the age that she was in this. I could not believe it. I couldn't.
Yeah,
Anyway.
she's been miscast as a kid for a long time now.
A very long time now. Millie Cyrus Bon Jovi Brown. Okay. Do we have anything else to say? This was a night.
No, I think
Dead on Arrival.
I can't believe it was that bad for you.
It was really, you know what? And I like Madam Web. So this is weird. Let's discuss this because
let's discuss our bad movie likes.
Well, let's just discuss this because Troy and Brad are still flummoxed over the fact that I love things like From Justin to Kelly and like Morbius and Madam Web. And you bring up a very, very good point, right? I think that nothing destroys movies more than expectations, right? And so with this being a big blockbuster, I don't even really know what I was expecting, but the point that I sort of want to discuss here is on the one hand, you can say, turn your brain off and just watch this $320 million abomination and have fun with it. But then there's the hide to that Jekyll is it too much to ask for something to have a story, cogent, narrative and good acting in it? Is it too much to ask for that as a baseline for film? So how do I reconcile with other people the fact that, yeah, you can go into a movie and turn your brain off, but I damn sure think that if you engage the Russos with this, they did not have that in mind. They did not have in mind for you to turn your brain off and watch it. And so that's why I'm saying, Like, is it too much to ask to have a baseline of goodness, solid creativity and talent in your movie rather than just turning your brain off? What do you think?
Well, I thought there was a lot. I mean, okay, we could keep going, but I know we want to make this a short episode. But for me, I really was moved by the brother-sister storyline. And I know to them, after watching their interviews, that's what brought them to it. Their sister also is a producer that works with them and all their stuff. So to them, that's what really brought them. But they even say that to them, they make movies for visuals. They're visual filmmakers. They do not care that, like, again, they took this on with just straight on visuals. And at first they thought it would be even silent. They didn't think they would even have dialogue at first. But then, of course, I blame most of the things
my God, that would have made me hate it even more if it didn't have dialogue.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. I blame everything that's wrong with this on Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. I mean, this is Christopher Marcus's baby. He brought it to all of them. He said, hey, look at this. This looks cinematic. This looks cool. We can do this. I'm going to write this. And started writing it without really even knowing how the story started or finished. So, I mean, again, there's a lot of flaws. But the thing that I love about this is that, yes, it's too expensive, but it looks so good. It's so much fun to watch with as a child. And it brings me back to seeing these big movies as a kid. For me, like, it goes back to being 13, 14 and seeing Jurassic Park. To me, that blew my mind, seeing these big giant things. And this is exactly who this movie is for, 13, 14-year-olds, and even younger. Like, my 7-year-olds ate this shit up. This is the kind of movie that is made, it's like an Amblin Entertainment film. It's made for children. It's like the train wreck alien movie that J.J. Abrams made. It feels exactly like that. Super 8. It's exactly like that. This is that type of movie where
that was an homage. That was an homage to Spielberg, though. And so I guess the difference,
I felt like this is an homage to George Lucas in that, though. Again,
well, I have a feeling about Spielberg versus Lucas myself. But,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I think that all of this just boils down to, are you going to be a Michael Bay, or are you going to be
very
Steven
much a
Spielberg?
Michael Bay?
And I think there's a place for him. Or are you going to be a Steven Spielberg?
And I think there's a place for a Michael Bay, though,
because I think there is definitely a place. But listen, like, okay, who are visualists who know how to tie all of it together? Fincher, visualist who can tie it all together, acting, storyline, narrative, all of it. Edgar Wright, visualist who can tie it all together, blah, blah, blah. So again, do you want to be Steven Spielberg or do you want to be Michael Bay? All right. There is a place for everything in its place.
Yeah, there is. I just
also Team Madam Web, so I know.
I mean, again, you thought Madam Web was fun. This is a ton of fun to me. I thought that it was silly. I thought the jokes worked. Again, the acting's not that great, but the designs of the robots and the world that they built was just enough to keep me entertained. Nothing great or revolutionary. It's not going to change cinema by any means. But if you can sit down and spend 2 hours with your family laughing and just having a good time, I think right now, more than anything, that's important. And to me, that's what I got with my family. We sat down. If it was me and Katie watching it, she probably would have checked out like 10 minutes in. If it was just me watching it, maybe I'd have played on my phone. But watching this with my family, going back to the importance of the experience of a film, watch this with your family if you have one, and you'll see a difference than if you watch this on your own. If you're an adult and you've seen a ton of film, like the rest of the Gentleman Guide to Midnight Cinema folks are listening to us, this probably isn't for you. But if you want something to just sit down and watch with your kids and just watch them enjoy something the way you did when you were young, yes, it's not great, but it has that wow. And even as someone who's a visualist, like I love their visual style. Eat up the eye candy. Give it a try. Now let's go on to our skips, or I mean, our watch. Is it a watcher? Is a watcher a skip?
So for me, it's a skip, man. Skip,
yeah, hard skip.
Skip this fucking movie. It's awful. Russos do better. Light watch. Again, like you said, maybe if you had to pay money to see it, maybe I'd say skip and wait for streaming. But it's on Netflix. 99% of you have Netflix.
If not, you can get a login from your brother or uncle. I mean,
There's better shit on Netflix. That Back to Action with Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz,
that is
much better than this shit. Much. Anyway,
is more
okay.
fun.
So we're gonna agree to disagree about this.
That was kind of fun. We haven't really done that yet on the show. That was kind of fun.
We're gonna agree to disagree on this, but okay. So if you have not seen The Electric State, directed by the Russo Brothers, starring Millie Bobby Brown,
Millie
and
Baby
Chris
Brown.
Pratt, you're gonna want to turn us off in 3, 2, 1. All right. Obviously, they kind of wanted to do this heavy social commentary allegory about accepting robots and having them be your friends or whatever, but that whole social commentary shit, just they clearly don't want to go there, and yet they keep going there, which made me insane.
I feel like that was there because of the writing.
Yeah.
Man, what a mess the screenplay was. Like,
It's they didn't even build in. They didn't even build in very well. I mean, literally, they explain it, the concept of his consciousness going into the robot, in one scene through 2
because
sentences.
he's really smart. That's all we know is he's smart. He can.
And he was like, "Oh, and with physics, there is an electric state that we can enter, and then maybe like consciousness can go into, and then bam, he's inside the fucking robot." Like, yeah. And I know. Honestly, I think that the film, they didn't build up enough, except through flashbacks, the connection between the brother and her. So that when the robot shows up and he can only communicate Bumblebee style, which is by parroting the lines from the television show, right? Just like Bumblebee can only speak in like lyrics from music or like DJs or whatever, it didn't have the impact that it should have, Now, granted, I love the design of the Kid Cosmo thing. I want a Kid Cosmo cartoon. I'll watch that.
Cool.
I'll fucking watch that. I loved it in his big feet, and it was so cute. You know who he really reminded me of was shoot, he passed away. He played the villain in Die Hard, Alan Rickman. It reminded me of Alan Rickman's character in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the big robot that was like, I'm just gonna sit in my room and turn myself off or whatever. Like the design of the robot reminded me of that. Now, I will say that the Herm character was amusing. Some of this was mildly amusing. I found myself laughing very hard in some bits, but not enough to make me love this film. But Herm and the fact that they are stashing what looked to be like, basically pop culture items and then selling them on the black market because they're in the zone where the robots are being kept. By the way, again, social commentary, there's a border, folks. There's a border here, and there's some comments about how, oh, see that border? We just follow it and we end up in the same place or whatever. But again, like, don't inject that kind of stuff that reminds me of our society now and then just try to play it off. But so I love that they have all these things and it's like a black market for it. I love that scene with the fish that are singing or whatever. Oh, we got some action in the fish aisle. I loved that part. I thought that the Herm character was very, very funny. But man, Pratt's character is just a hot mess in this. He's not a very likable character. Also, is he gay? Did he confess his love to Herm? I mean, literally, he said, "I love you more than a friend," and then he kind of tries to play it off, I guess. Was his character gay?
I think he was like trying to say that he was like loved him like a brother, I think is what he was trying to say.
I guess, but then say that. But then he got all,
he was very much,
and he walked it back.
He was just playing the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy all over again, Star-Lord. It's the exact, I mean, he's literally playing the same character, but later, the more depressed, chunky, bad haircut version of Star-Lord. That's literally what his character is. But again, I kind of like his charm. Maybe I'm a sucker because I remember when he was chubby and funny in Parks and
Oh
Rec,
my god, I loved him chubby and funny.
the buffer he's gotten, the less fun he gets now. And
Yeah.
then he got paid millions to just do this. Hold his hand up to the freaking camera. At Legendary Raptors.
And wait, didn't he blow a whistle?
Yeah, so that's what he got paid money to do for many
Yeah.
movies. I get why he keeps getting cast and stuff, because the kids do like him. He's really
They
likable.
do like him.
This
He is likable.
This is a
He's a
kid's
big
movie.
Lego. He's a big human Lego avatar.
He is.
I'll say
and
that.
the reality is this is a big kids movie, and it kind of feels like a Michael Bay movie because yes, it's crude, there's swearing, it's kind of silly, raunchy stuff at times. I love your analogy of calling it a Transformer movie, fucking Willy Wonka, because really, honestly, it is very colorful and fun, like the new Wonka film. Very, very like fun to watch. And again, that's a complaint. My friends who like the graphic novel say it's much more dark, it's much more downbeat, it's much more graphic novel, more for adults. Whereas this, they saw the images, and said, oh, Christopher Marcus said, I want to turn this into my Steven Spielberg, but he's not Steven Spielberg. There's great visuals, but he as a writer is the problem with a lot of the Russo stuff. And now I hate to back on the writers. I do that a lot in the show, but really the writing in this is awful. There's just tedious.
I hate to say this, the Gray Man wasn't all that great either, but
Nope,
it was a good
guy.
action sort of beat thing. I know I talked about how I did like the visuals and stuff like that, but at some point midway through this movie, those magic eye posters where you look at them,
You're supposed to be able to see,
to relax, and then you see the object or whatever. Like, this is the reverse of a magic eye poster. Like, as the movie's going on, I see the object, but then there was so much to the visuals that like my eyes just crossed and all I saw was visual white noise. When we get to that ending battle, I didn't care because I was just like, there's just robot jizz everywhere. It was I did not like this. I did not like this. It was dead on arrival for me. It was terrible.
It's very much a kid's film. It's not marketed as a kid's film. That's a big issue. Like, you didn't know you were getting into a kid's film. They don't market it.
It's a PG-13, but like when they
very kiddie though.
But when they get to that final thing, first of all, none of it made sense about how. So apparently Stanley Tucci runs this company. He's basically supposed to be like Elon Musk at Apple or whatever. But when there's a robot versus human war, apparently what he did was took the kid's brain and used it as the neural network to defeat the robots by having this drone network. And so what happens is he then takes the drone network and sells people on what is ostensibly like a VR headset, but the headset allows you to be in two places at once. I was confounded by this. I'm like, no, it doesn't work. But the headset allows you to not only say go to work, but then it allows you to also play around so that citizens of the world can both work and play at the same time. None of this makes any fucking sense, folks. I guarantee you it's not
their brain in two.
I'd like to split the Russos into fucking this movie up, but anyway, so it's weird. But then at the end of the film, what I guess his consciousness leaked out of the network, and yet the network is still able to work. Riddle me that, how that works. But at the end of the film, we get the sight of this poor kid whose body is like looking like the future people from Minority Report, like Samantha Morton, like
I felt
like all bald or whatever. Like, I felt terrible, but it's like none of that mattered. And then we get to this, what is to be the focal point of the film, essentially emotionally, is that he's willing to sacrifice himself so that the network can die, that we won't have any of this anymore. And it's like Millie Bobby Brown's character has to make the sacrifice. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Yeah. But then they chicken out of that. They chicken out of that ending. Don't you think? See, I've even forgotten how it ended. That's how
I felt like
that's how
it was
dead on
emotional.
arrival this film was. It held none.
I
of
saw
the
it right
emotional
after
power
a
it was
funeral.
supposed to.
So I saw it right after a funeral. So
I mean, I did too, and it was kind of emotional. But like, I've already forgotten about the movie. I've already forgotten about this film. Oh, you turned yourself off.
There we go. Okay. Basically, the brother has to kill himself to save his daughter and everyone else, and she has her sister, and she has to let him go.
His
Daughter.
Snort.
Again, I thought I was emotional enough that I bought into all that. I watch a lot of kids movies, so for me, I was prepared for this to be kind of a bad kids movie. I've heard enough from other friends that were not looking forward to it. And when you said you wanted to review it, I was expecting to kind of hate this. I was expecting to be demolishing this worse than you, but I don't know if it was a mixture of me, going back to how we started this show, me like dealing with grief that made this work for me. I don't know. Maybe we touch back on this future days and I watch it again and I'll come on here as a plus and maybe I'll be able to tear it apart. But right now, I thought that it was sweet enough, fun enough, family friendly enough that you could watch with your family and kind of just forget about the shit of this world that 2025 is giving us. And for that, I kind of applaud the movie for just being a big, dumb, stupid movie that you can watch with your friends. Sure, there's a lot of other great movies that you could find on Netflix that can fit that bill. Tons of fun action movies out there. This doesn't add a lot new, but something about these robots, the way that world is built, it works better for me than talk about how much you like Spielberg. Spielberg made a film similar to this about people in headsets, Ready Player One, that I like less than I like this. So,
oh my God, I love Ready Player One. Are you kidding me? That took the right pop culture tone. But here's the thing, even though this is set in the 90s, I could not turn my brain off about the sort of elements of robot discrimination, robot civil rights, the fact that everybody is automated and there's a drone or whatever. Like, you can't inject that stuff and then expect people to be like, haha, yay.
It's like WALL-E. I mean, we saw that in WALL-E. People were like,
yes, totally like WALL-E. Yeah. The big fat people, like completely. But like, man, I'd rather watch Madam Web 3 times in a row than watch this again, I will say.
I would rather watch this than Madam Web 3 times in a row. I guess it's just different types of trash, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, I totally admit that this is not a great movie, but it was an entertaining slice of fluffy junk to me. It was like eating...
Oh, it's junk, all right.
It's like eating a big, greasy, freaking, burger from McDonald's. It's like a double, triple, quadruple burger from them. It's one of those. It's just great, big and greasy, and I ate it at the right time. That just happened to hit the right spots for me. But again, I'd say if you're a family guy, you have a family to watch it with, do that. Otherwise, I'm gonna still say I'm a soft watch on it. But yeah, if you know this, you don't like kids movies, don't watch this. You're not gonna enjoy it. Well, but if you have family and kids, it's better than a lot of other junk out there for kids. Trust me, I watch them all.
Well, I will say this. I ate the big greasy burger and it gave me the shits. Skip this movie. Skip it hard. Russo's, please do better.
You got the virused out onions from McDonald's in your burger.
Exactly. It turned into Contagion, okay? To talk about another Soderbergh movie. Actually, you know what? This isn't Russo's Do Better, although I really want them to do better. This is Marcus and McFeely, Please Do Better.
It's on them. The mistakes are on them, 100%.
How can you go from The Winter Soldier, a perfect superhero movie, to writing detritus like this? Terrible.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
We got some pluses. Let's do it. We got some pluses. What do you got? What do you got this week?
You're going to start with me? Okay. Well, I'm going back to the movies. I did end up going to the cinemas. And I went and saw with my kids The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie.
Yay.
Let me tell you, this was a blast. This is so much fun. If you don't know about the story of this movie, it was basically greenlit back, 2021, 2022, made by the same guy who created and ran the Looney Tunes TV show on Max when that first started.
Yeah.
And he also came from Uncle Grandpa and a bunch of other Cartoon Network shows. And the whole movie feels very much like Ren and Stimpy meets Chuck Jones meets like 2010s comedy or Cartoon Network, because that's really what it is. It gets the tone right for the old like Looney Tune stuff, the just silly, crazy, slapstick, in your face hilarity of it. And it's also rooted in 1950s B horror movies. So it's just a blast. It's so much fun. It's a joke a minute. And I saw it in a theater that was 75% full of families. And the cool thing was there was like me and my crew and probably 4 other big families, like a big Asian family, a big family that was like from Uganda, and then us. And there was like, it was just this group of all of us Americans from all different walks of life, just laughing at Looney Tunes for 90 straight minutes.
I love that.
And kids of all ages. And as soon as it was done, and the dun, 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 all the kids in the run in the front of the theater and start dancing. It was just a wonderful experience. It was so much fun. It's just straight 90 minutes of humor. I mean, it is a 1950s riff on old sci-fi movies, basically. But just go in it, having fun. And to me, I've seen all of those Looney Tunes movies as a kid. Back that the compilation movies. This is one of the best things that they've released with the Looney Tunes name, like motion picture wise. Probably ever. It's really hard to say that I did love the old school, but again, they're compilations of shorts, but I love the old Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner movie from 1979. I loved all of those that they were putting out throughout my childhood. And I had the clam case VHSs and I watched those and worshiped them. And it was so nice to be able to, when Max brought back Looney Tunes, it was awesome to be able to watch those shorts. And now this movie, I'm so glad that Catch Up Media, that also saved the Hellboy franchise, came and bought this movie for distribution after Warner Brothers and Zaslav's ass got rid of it. Batgirl and Acme versus, there's like 2 of like 4
Coyote versus Acme. Yeah.
There was like 5 planned Looney Tunes movies, and this was the first one that they were going to make for Max. And then right after this, we were supposed to get the Acme Coyote movie. But then
Coyote versus Acme.
Zaslav came in and pulled all of those. Luckily,
Damn him.
Luckily, Catch Up Media came in and bought this, but they were not willing to lower the asking price on the Coyote versus Acme below 70 million what it was made. They were just being jerks, whereas they sold everything else for half price or quarter price. They were just holding on to it to kill it because they want to count all 70 million as deductions, which is what they did. So at this point, unless somebody comes in and gives them 70 million bucks to give back to the government, the movie will never come out. So it really sucks, but I'm glad we have this. So people go see it in theaters, let Warner Brothers and other people know that Looney Tunes is still relevant. We still need something that will give us 80, 90 minutes of joy for people from age 3 to 103. So just go to the movies and go see this if you can. What about you? What do you have for us?
Your audience experience reminds me of the audience experience I had when I saw Holmes and Watson.
Oh, cute. Except that's for grown-ups.
I'm joking. Actually, I have a couple questions. Troy saw this too. And I'll let him talk about his opinion of it. But this apparently has 11 writers. Did you feel this? Oh,
yeah, because it's very much a compilation of a bunch of like little teeny shorts, and there's bits that are all strung together. So it very much feels like that, because that's how all the Looney Tunes movies.
That's how Looney Tunes is, right?
It's just a bunch, but this felt the most cohesive of anything like that.
Okay.
Again, but yeah, it did feel like everybody had like a piece. But there's this whole bit about them being raised by a farmer who's like stuck like a 1950s caricature, like a Santa Claus that just kind of like sits here and his mouth moves, kind of making fun of animation of the time. Oh my!
Oh, that's great.
So funny. And there's just a lot of great little gags.
So 2 other questions, and then I'll move on to my plus. 1, did we get a new Looney Tunes short before this film?
I thought we were going to, but we didn't get anything before and or after. So, But again, it's
Boo.
because Ketchup doesn't own the rights. They literally bought the right to release this
Oh,
film.
you're right. You're right.
So they didn't
that
own it,
makes
so they
sense.
couldn't. So
That
my
makes
hope
sense.
is they make their money back. I heard they paid somewhere between 5 and 8 million. Nobody's really disclosed exactly what they paid. I think it was $10 million to make.
Well,
But
hopefully they will, and then hopefully they can sell it back to Zaslav so they can show it on HBO Max. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So
The other
yeah,
thing I wanted
we'll
to
see.
ask you was, how does this stack up against Looney Tunes Back in Action, which I fucking love, directed by Joe Dante?
I love that too, but I would say I like this more because there's just nothing
full
better than the
animated.
Looney
Yeah.
Tunes being pure animation, and just focusing on Porky and Petunia and Daffy really works. Where you don't get so much, you get just their kind of humor, and it was kind of funny to see Porky be the like straight face to Daffy's wild, goofy, kind of off the wall.
ADHD,
So that was kind of
in cocaine
ADHD
insanity.
Daffy instead of angry aggro Daffy. I like this version. I like the way they play with the characters. I loved Petunia in it. Again, if you love Looney Tunes, you're gonna enjoy some parts of this. I know some people felt like some of the like Ren and Stimpy-esque type of animation styles. You know, sometimes they grotesquely zoom into things, you know, how Ren and Stimpy created that.
With their eyes.
Yeah, and then they have like
I love Ren and Stimpy. It's my thing.
So there's bits
Okay.
of humor like that come out where you're like, there's some adult things that go way over the kid's head that are just funny like that, just
Oh, good.
grotesque little bits. And some people I know, Looney Tunes purists, are like, oh, that should be cut out. That's too gross. What is this, Ren and Stimpy? I had a freaking blast with it, but I also like the new Mickey Mouse stuff that's very Ren and Stimpy. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of a
totally.
sucker for animation.
Totally. Okay, so you saw this coming. Everybody saw this coming. What is my plus? My plus is Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I ended up seeing Black Bag. This is directed by Steven Soderbergh and written by David Koepp. This is a curiosity for me because, first of all, it reunites Soderbergh with Michael Fassbender, who was in Haywire, which is it continues to be the gem that keeps giving. I love how our community, people just keep rediscovering Haywire because it's an out of the box Soderbergh. Like, you know, I read an article about how there were themes about, you know, just the pressure of the recession and economics on certain people that was a thread through The Girlfriend Experience, another film, and then this one. But this one was more like that, just with action in some ways. And so there was a part of me that was hoping that this was in the Haywire universe. I'm still going to say it's in the Haywire universe because it does deal with spies. But this, I'm going to say 4 words, which might strike terror into film goers' hearts, but this is people in rooms talking. Okay, so but
that's
you know, shocker. But this
that's
is
what he's
very
known
much,
for.
I know, but this is very much, if you think about it, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy Soderbergh. And this cast is incredible. Not only is the cast like bonerific, okay, but we've got some really, really good actors. We've got Michael Fassbender, Kate Blanchett. We've got Regé-Jean Page, who at one point might have been Bond, maybe could still be Bond. Amazon, wake up. But he's from Bridgerton. There is a gal, I forget her name, but she is currently in Industry, which is on HBO Max, which I hear is a very, very good series. And then we've got Tom Burke, who is just, to me, Tom Burke is just like sex personified. He's got a cleft lip. He's so sexy. You all may remember Tom Burke as the quasi love interest in Mad Max Furiosa. He was the other sort of like truck driver that she got all hot and bothered by, and I got all hot and bothered by. But anyway, he's in this. This is a great cast. Pierce Brosnan shows up in this, and let me just tell you. So it is people talking in rooms. It is about espionage, but the 2 things about this film that stand out to me are, one, it's bookended by 2 very long dinner scenes, and somehow Soderbergh makes that very, very exciting and tense and wonderful. You know, that whole like Alfred Hitchcock talking about how you create tension as you show people the bomb or whatever. Those dinner sequences, like they show you the bomb and then they just like play with you. It's amazing. And then the other thing about this film that sticks out to me is the kernel of this idea is, if you worked for the CIA and all of your coworkers were trained liars, how would you know any of this? Your relationships with them, your friendships with them, your romances with them, how would you know any of it was real? How could you trust your wife or even your friends if they worked for the CIA and that was your living, was to like fucking lie and get over on people and be a schemer? And that, like, those two things like suffuse this movie with such excitement. I know people are going to watch this and going to be like, Jose's awful, like he's not a film critic, but this movie was just so exciting to me. I'm dying to watch it again, so please go and see it. Black Bag, it is it's fantastic. Soderbergh, what is the phrase you do? Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Yes, chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Please see this movie. I need it to be a success, because let me tell you, when this movie ended, there's a couple ways you can kind of interpret this ending, and I want to see it again. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So we should have reviewed this then. We should
have reviewed Black Bag.
That was the initial thing. We should have just kept with it the whole time.
We should have, but you know what? This was our first streamer. So there you go. We did it.
And
we did
that was the first time we really disagreed like hardcore like that. I mean, we disagreed last week too, but we were both kind of in the middle. You were really against this and I was in the middle. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah. Fuck the electric state. Okay. So So again, people, like, subscribe. We hope you enjoy our banter, that we don't bore you, that kind of thing. Please tune in. Again, tell everybody about us. We love to build this community and just talk about film. We love film. You know, and so if you love us, you'll certainly love our Podfathers, The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema. We talk about them all the time. And Not a Bomb, we talk about them all the time as well. And then our pod brother, Friends with Cinefits. You'll also love Night of the Living Podcast, Wild Dream Podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the Podcast, Backlook Cinema Podcast, and now for something a little bit different, that's a YouTube channel as well, for that John Horgan runs, Caliber 9 from Outer Space, and The Feminine Critique. Parting thoughts, Mike. What you got?
Just go, like I always say, take your kids to the movies. I said it before Sean Baker, and I'll keep saying it loud and proud that you need to get your kids out there. And my positive experiences after burying a family member was seeing films with my kids and feeling their energy. So get out there and take your kids to see movies and see something at home, whether it's Silly Electric State or pick something else. There's plenty of classics to choose from, whether you have Netflix or just Tubi. Man, you know how much free stuff there is on Tubi?
Wealth of fun on Tubi.
Yeah. Find something to
old
watch with your
21
kids.
Jump Street episodes are on Tubi. Go for it. I'm waiting for them to put Manimal back on, though. I love the Manimal. So, but in addition to save exhibition and take your family to the movies, please also save physical media, folks. We've got to keep giving back to the industry so that we have these things. Young film goers, please do this. Also, always remember, be kind, be open, be vulnerable, and that is where the art is. See you guys next week.
See you next week.